What will you do if life knocks you down like Lady Maria? This is her story, and it is possible for you to write yours. The sound of heels clicking against the polished floors echoed through the grand office space. She stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the city that once swallowed her in hardship. Today, she owned a piece of it. For years, shame had been her shadow. She had scrubbed floors, washed dishes, and carried the burden of raising her children alone. With every rag she wrung dry and every floor she polished, she whispered silent prayers for a better life. Those who had money barely saw her. Those who lacked integrity saw an opportunity. Maria had once been a young girl with dreams, but life had other plans. She dropped out of school in her matric year when she became pregnant and agreed to marry the father of her children. For a while, things seemed promising. The man spoke of love, of marriage, of a future together. But as her belly grew, so did his distance. He could not handle her changing body, and one day, he vanished, leaving her for another, someone he found more beautiful. Her father and stepmother, ashamed of the humiliation, sent her away to live with her grandparents. They disowned her, cutting ties as though she had brought disgrace upon their name. Her grandparents, though loving, were elderly and surviving on a small pension. They helped where they could, but Maria quickly learned that she was truly on her own. She gave birth to triplets, 3 beautiful boys. And with their arrival, she knew she had no choice but to fight. Maria started looking for work, but the world was not kind to a young mother with 3 babies. She ended up cleaning houses for money and clothes, accepting whatever help she could get. Some people offered her hand-me-downs, which she either used for her children or washed, ironed, and sold. The cycle continued, and as her boys grew, they began to help their mother in small ways. They sold clothes while she continued working, collecting more items to clean and resell. Books, shoes, anything she could get her hands on, nothing went to waste. One night, as she lay in bed exhausted from the day's labor, a thought took root in her mind. She needed to go back to school. She had saved a little, not enough, but enough to start. And so, while juggling her daily duties, she enrolled to complete her matric online. Nights were spent studying after long days of work, exhaustion pressing on her bones, but she endured. One evening, her eldest son, Luca, sat beside her as she struggled with a business math assignment. "Why do you study so late, Mama?" he asked, his young face full of curiosity. "Because," she said, pausing to look at him, "I want us to have a better life. And I want you to see that nothing is impossible." Maria completed her matric with exemption, and then, a miracle, she was awarded a bursary to further her education. Her dream had always been to start a business, so she pursued business studies at a reputable university. It was a grueling schedule. Mornings were for preparing her children for school and cleaning houses. Evenings were for sorting and washing items she had collected during the day, and finally, after everything, she would turn to her assignments. It became her routine, a routine of sacrifice, resilience, and unshaken determination. Yet, in the midst of her struggle, she had never allowed her children to feel helpless. She raised them with discipline and faith, teaching them that dependency was a trap and hard work was their only way out. When she cleaned houses, they read their books beside her. When she studied late into the night, they did their homework next to her. She taught them the value of responsibility, making sure they never felt entitled to an easy way out. Their first business started small. They collected old books and sold them to other children at school. Soon, they began tutoring struggling students for a small fee. Every penny mattered, and every effort counted. Through it all, she prayed, long, desperate prayers that carried her through the darkest nights. She never doubted that God had a plan, even when she couldn't see it. Then came the breakthrough. The university she attended had been watching. One professor, inspired by her resilience and business ideas, recommended her for a startup incubation program. A grant was offered, an opportunity beyond her wildest dreams. The day she signed the final paperwork, securing funding for her business, she sat in her small kitchen, staring at the letter. Her hands trembled. Tears blurred her vision. Her children ran into the room, seeing the paper in her hand. "What is it, Mama?" one of the boys asked. She looked at them, her heart bursting. "It's a chance," she whispered. "A chance for us to change everything." And so, she built her first business, an educational center where children could get free tutoring and women could learn skills to become financially independent. It was the foundation of the empire she owned today. Years later, as she stood in the grand office space she built, she thought of those who once looked down on her and those who took her love for granted. Those who tried to break her, who treated her struggle as weakness. And she smiled. Because she had won. She had risen from dust. And in her rising, she lifted others with her. This is the story of Lady Maria, let it lift you up. This is the story of Lady Maria, let it encourage you and give you hope that it is not yet over. Believe in your purpose, believe that your work will impact millions of people's lives like Maria.